Alex, you haven't completed that.
Yeah, he's a guest, is not fish. Stop.
Stop.
Stop. There's too much stress. How do you guys deal with this? I need to go and find that monk that I read about on social media. Come on, let's go. I've finally arrived. Now, I have to go and find a monk. Let's go. Gauranga Prabhu, I've heard you're the man to speak to deal with stress.
Hare Krishna, welcome to ISKCON Govardhan Eco Village. We are at the abode of Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan Dev, the person who spoke the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna, and he has given some excellent sutras for how each one of us in our daily life can cope with stress.
So, Gauranga Das was not the name that you came to this world with. And there is a story here. And I think my viewers would benefit from hearing that, because that ultimately is the reason why you are who you are today, the reason why you became a monk. You went to IIT Bombay at the same time that Sundar Pichai went to IIT Kharagpur, and he is the chief executive officer of Google, whereas you're a monk.
Well, he is doing something wonderful for the world through technology. We are looking at how there is the machines and there is a man behind the machine. So all the university education, the education in technology, management, accounting, finance, marketing, sales, medicine, law, they're all speaking about how to improve the systems and the machines and the efficiency and the speed. Whereas there is an entire different body of knowledge from the scriptures, from the ancient Vedic wisdom, like the Bhagavad Gita, which speaks about how to help the man behind the machine control his own machine, which is the body, mind, and intelligence and ego. And I came across the message of the Bhagavad Gita in my last year of IIT Mumbai. And then I realized that when a virus affects the hard disk of a computer, then however great the computer may look, it collapses. Similarly, the mind is like the hard disk, and the virus which affects the mind is what is known as anxiety, stress, depression, distress, discouragement, defeat. And so I came across one of my friends who tried to commit suicide in the last year of IIT just because he could not get the marks he expected. And that was a wake-up call for me, because I realized that real happiness, joy, and satisfaction is not a function of how much you achieve, but it is actually the function of the gap between your expectation and reality.
How well put. My goodness. Okay, I couldn't have sought a better answer. I came seeking a little wisdom about how to deal with stress, and we've already started with such beautiful thoughts. But let me delve a little deeper into your story. You've said that one of the pivotal moments was this colleague of yours or this classmate of yours that decided to take this action. But then I've also heard that you started a job and you shifted out of that, and it was a dramatic shift. That was ultimately the most pivotal moment, wasn't it?
Well, actually, by the time I completed my course in IIT, I was actually applying for universities abroad, and I had already given my GRE, and the regular track was on,
Right.
and the applications were in process. But then when I got really convinced that the world needs to understand this wisdom in the right context, because context is important. The message is always the same, but the way in which the message is relayed makes a lot of difference. And therefore, I thought that it's very important to communicate the message in the right way. And I thought that just like there are people who pass out from engineering but come back and become professors in engineering college, similarly, the message of the Gita can be applied by the majority, but a few need to come back and become teachers, professors, researchers of the Gita.
Okay.
So in one sense, notwithstanding my dress and my hairstyle and everything, in
I
a
think it looks
sense-
cool.
in a sense, I'm more like someone in the academic pursuit of the Bhagavad Gita, doing more deeper research and trying to share the results of that with people for their benefit, for their transformation.
I listened to your, I want to call it a lecture yesterday, because it was essentially that you were talking about history, you were going back to the 1500s and you were talking about Sanatan and the history of Hinduism as well. And ultimately, it's all about marrying the history of our culture with the learnings of what you're seeing today and contextualizing it as you're saying. But do you think that it's increasingly difficult for young people to bridge that gap because everything is so instant, everything is so present, everything is so, what am I going to do tomorrow, day after, 1 year from now, 5 years from now, 15 years from now? Do you think it's increasingly dissonant?
That's a really good question, because today the facts related to mental health crisis is horrifying. 230 million people across the world are addicted to social media. 70 million in Bharat, in India alone. We are looking at an average of the youth spending 7 hours a day. So when people can eat 3 to 4, 5 chapatis, they start eating 20 to 40 chapatis a day, what will happen to their digestive system? So just because there is no defined parameters or how much data mind can handle, doesn't mean you go on bombarding the mind with unlimited data. So there used to be the concept in Vedic culture of upavas.
Right.
And upavas meant staying away from food, staying away from water, and using that time for more spiritual reflection. I think we need to add another dimension beyond food and water, which is your smartphones, which is staying away from data.
So, in a lot of teachings that you get handed down over the years, whether people realize it or not, I feel there is a search for equilibrium and there's a search for balance. And so, in your opinion, of course, you have taken the decision, you pointed out why you did that, to abjure everything, to let everything go because you had a drive, you had a mission. But not everybody can do that. What, according to you, is the middle ground, and how does one seek that?
That's a very interesting question, because in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asked the question, how do we identify? Sthita pragya means one who is situated in equilibrium, right? So interestingly, although I told you that I went to IIT Mumbai, Sundar Pichai went to IIT Kharagpur, but there is another colleague of mine, and he went to IIT Mumbai, and he went to the same hostel as mine, Hostel 6.
And who is this?
That is Ashish Kumar Chauhan.
Of course, and he's heading the NSE.
He's heading the NSE. He was heading the BSc for over a decade. And interestingly, he's releasing a book on 17th, and the title of that book is Sthita Pragya.
Oh, wow.
It's a biographical account about him and how he's used the principles of the Bhagavad Gita and ancient Vedic spirituality to apply in his corporate career, which was quite centered around swinging markets, which are not at all in equilibrium, as you know, but how he used some of these techniques to maintain equilibrium.
Yes.
So therefore, there is a fantastic example right here that you don't have to be a full monk to experience and apply equilibrium. You could be a man surrounded by the swinging markets, and still you could try to apply the principles, because ultimately that's the whole idea of the Bhagavad Gita. And I feel shocked that India, with a population of 1.4 billion, gets just 11 million tourists, whereas Paris, just one city, gets 25 million tourists. Greece, with a population of 10 million, gets almost 33 million tourists. We have so many more stories to tell. We have so much of wisdom to share.
Yes.
We have so many wonderful, places to show to the people. And I think you and your colleagues should make a concerted effort to see the value which spirituality can add to also grow the overall context of what we call as spiritual tourism.
Yes.
But many people don't like that word, but we can just call it cultural tourism. And the idea is people should come to explore Bharat for the very fact that Bharat is a place filled with wisdom which can help them reset. And therefore, it's very important that the core message of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is speaking to Arjuna for 1 hour. For most viewers, I would like to share that the Gita was spoken for just 1 hour.
Yes.
Arjuna was surrounded by 17 Akshahini soldiers. Almost 640 million soldiers were all battle ready with all the arms. And you know, when fighters who are trained in fighting, who have the nature to fight, and who have a major cause to fight, and are inspired to fight, and 640 million of them are together,
The ding.
it's not very easy to suspend or even postpone the deadline by 1 hour.
Yes.
But Krishna and Arjuna just did that to show that whoever you may be, you cannot be in a busier day schedule than Arjuna, surrounded by 640 million soldiers ready to fight.
And that pandemonium and that chaos.
Your battle for the day cannot be more urgent than Arjuna's battlefield situation of 640 million soldiers all raring to go.
Right.
Still, Arjuna was put in a situation of such hopelessness because he experienced what most of us fail to recognize that we will experience one day, which is identity crisis.
Who am I?
Arjuna's identity initially was very clear. I'm a warrior, I'm supposed to kill. But suddenly Krishna changed the context and brought him in front of Bhishma. And Arjuna's identity suddenly changed that, oh, I am supposed to be a grandson who's supposed to love my grandfather.
Right.
Then he brought in front of Drona, and Arjuna's identity changed further. I'm supposed to be a student who's supposed to respect my teacher. In a moment, Arjuna experienced major world war within himself between three identities. Am I a warrior? Am I a student? Or am I a grandson? And then that clash of the identities made Arjuna collapse. And he just could not make a decision, because ultimately when there is identity, only on the foundation of identity we can establish the intention. And only when the intention is right and the identity is established, based on the combination of identity and intention, you can actually use your intelligence. And then when there is clarity in intelligence, then there can be intensity in making sure that you make incremental progress. If you do not have the foundation itself in place, nothing works. And that is the reason why major corporation heads, when they experience a little bit of change in their ESOPs or change in the way their appraisals are done, or the way the board reacts, or the way stakeholders react, they just get so bewildered. And in a VUCA world, let me tell you,
I love that you're using the VUCA word, yes.
I'm spending more time with you guys than you know.
Volatility, uncertainty. So, of course, that abbreviation. But you know what? You complete the sentence. In a VUCA world.
So basically, we need a method by which people can experience stability. And that's what Krishna does in the Bhagavad Gita, by helping Arjuna understand that beyond his swabhava of a fighter, beyond his swadharma of a fighter, he needs to experience his swarupa as a soul which doesn't change. So therefore, in the education system, thanks to NEP 2020, Indian knowledge system, spiritual knowledge is also being taught in schools, colleges, institutions. And I'm a faculty in IIM.
I was going to ask. So, and this is part of the conversation. But before we get to that, Prabhuji, I want to ask you about the soul, as you've pointed out. That does not change. And you've already given us some food for thought, some things to ruminate. But one thing that I want to ask you is, you made this decision very young, right? And a lot of people today are faced with the crisis of not knowing whether they can stick to what they have decided to do. People are being pressured at a younger age. You need to set what you're doing in stone. 12, 13, 14, I want to be an astronaut, I want to be a doctor, I want to be an engineer. You need to do this. MBA comes next. MBA, after MBA, you need to apply to this. So if you're uncertain about what you're going to do, how do you commit? And if you can't commit, and if you find yourself in the place that you don't think you were meant to, where do you find the courage to make that shift?
My 2 cents worth of wisdom sharing with parents, teachers, mentors is that there was a time when acquiring skills was a premium, difficult, challenging. The access to skills was limited. There were clubs and you couldn't easily get those skills. But today, acquisition of skills is much more easier in the online world, in a world which is highly connected. Therefore, there is no dearth of the speed with which people can acquire skills. I think parents, teachers, mentors should focus on how their dependents should develop rock solid will.
Rock solid will. Okay.
And that's the important context of our conversation. That today, even for human resources heads, they're filled with CVs in the LinkedIn who describe all about different kinds of skills, and they are true also. But we are in the dearth of quality human resource, especially amongst the Gen Z, who are stable, who are focused, who are able to respond with maturity rather than react, and who are actually able to stand their ground. And even in a hopeless condition, even in a helpless condition, not lose hope. So I think that needs to be a very important aspect of the context. And I would say that if there is a technology which is created in California, like say, the Facebook or the Google or the Apple or Netflix or whatever, people find it useful in India, they embrace it.
Right.
Right now, across the world, even in Harvard, is actually realizing that consciousness is a very important principle. And Harvard gives courses on mindful leadership, on conscious leadership, on conscious businesses. So therefore, I think it's more important for Indians to realize that rather than thinking that the Vedic wisdom has no relevance in our life, we keep our minds open and explore the possibility of how that wisdom can add value in an individual's lives in terms of transforming their attitude and their will. And I think that's a very important element which we need to realize. And globally, if you look at it, even a country like America, almost 22 of the 500 Fortune 500 companies are led by Indian CEOs, and they are employing more than 2.5 million people and almost 1 trillion in revenue. So the fact is that the culture, the background, the kind of emotional resilience which a kid develops begins right from childhood. So I would say that parents and teachers and mentors should get trained in not pushing on their dependents too much of comparison, too much of complaining, too much of criticizing. I call comparing, complaining, criticizing as the cancers for the mind.
Okay.
And therefore,
I see why.
and today in such a connected world where everyone can see what everyone else is doing, there is enough pressure already.
Yeah.
So why not allow a person to settle down and realize what they can do best and then unpack things?
Generationally, one of the big debates that currently takes place in the workforce is work-life balance. And I think that's one thing that a lot of young people have that is going for them. Of course, they have to find balance there as well, which is that deliverables have to be made. And then after that, you can say, hey, you know what, I'm not going to do 11 hours of work. But having said that, do you think that more people need to think, and I'm talking about the managers here, I'm talking about the CEOs, I'm talking about the second level leaders, to talk about how they can achieve the goals that they need to achieve for their organization while also ensuring that stress is mitigated, that work-life balance is achieved. But it's easier said than done, isn't it?
Let me give you an example. So Modi ji has expanded the network of highways, and from Delhi to Mumbai, there is a huge now 4-lane, 8-lane highway coming up. It's smooth.
Yes.
It's a plain ride.
Yeah.
But then there is also the Himalayan car rally.
Right.
And the Himalayan car rally will take you on a, complete winding around the mountains and this and that. So now if I say that I need to go on a Himalayan car rally, but I need to make sure that my stomach doesn't spin and I need just a straight path. That is just not possible.
Right.
Krishna gives a very basic formula that focus on work-life purpose.
Work-life purpose.
When
Okay.
you begin with life purpose, you align your work according to that purpose. And then once your direction is set, because as I said, the whole education system is focused only on speed. But along with the clock, the important thing is compass. If you're only focused on high power engine, excellent steering wheel, excellent accelerator, this and that, but you don't have an address in the GPS, where will you
It
go?
doesn't matter if you're driving a Ferrari or a Lamborghini.
If you're driving a Ferrari in the wrong direction and about to jump off a cliff, then it's all the more dangerous.
Yeah.
So therefore, Krishna begins by establishing purpose. And then Krishna says, once the purpose is in place, then you can work backwards and see a sutra for peaceful life by trying to adjust and balance four things. Yukta ahara viharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasu, yukta swapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. Dukkha means even if you're in a Himalayan rally, you're not stopped from carrying some juices, carrying some snacks, making sure you rest on time, and you get refueled.
Right.
So Krishna is saying, in that hairpin bend filled journey, why don't you carry these four things?
Sure.
First, balance your food,
Okay.
diet, yukta ahara. Second, you have control over your recreation, which means when you say, I'm fatigued, my mind is fatigued, make sure you take recourse to the right kind of activities to rejuvenate your mind. So if you say manoranjan and then spend hours and hours watching all kinds of crazy YouTube videos, it becomes manobhanjan. Your mind becomes even more stressed out than before.
Right.
So therefore, have the right kind of recreation. Third, yukta cheshtasya and yukta swapna. Third is the sleep must be balanced. You'll be shocked to know that practically 90% of the youth in Japan under the age of 25, they cannot sleep more than 4 hours at night. And the Japanese companies are giving incentives,
For them to
bonuses. For them, they track their sleeping with devices and they say whoever sleeps 6 hours will get X amount of bonus.
Wow. I want
Just
that.
imagine. And it's a fact that 70% of leaders across the world have severe sleeping issues.
Yes.
And therefore, we are taking it for granted. Lots of evidences of cardiac arrests are happening even in youth.
40, 42, maybe
Exactly.
even less.
And people just look at that, but they don't look at
The causes.
what was the kind of diet, sleep, exercise which the person was doing.
And recreation also, right?
And the fourth thing is when these three, the food, the sleep, and the recreation are balanced, then the fourth is work.
Work. Okay, the fourth is work. Okay.
Because work should be in such a way that you are not only just taking care of the economic needs, but also the emotional needs by giving time to the family, to children, to other relatives, to friends.
I wanted to come back to the conversation about what you teach IIM graduates or people who are going to IIM. These are leaders of tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I find it curious and I find it very interesting. And I find that I am relieved that there is some element of this and what I'm learning from you that future leaders are learning. But if you talk to, and when you talk to leaders of these large corporates, what are the kinds of conversations that you have with them so that they become more efficient, so that they think about more than just the bottom line?
Well, there is an anecdote connected to how this IIM engagement began. Professor Bhimrai Maitri, who's the the director of IIM Nagpur. It was a greenfield project, fantastic project. He visited the Govardhan Eco Village and he was so impressed. He said, well, we have a provision for a professor of practice.
Right.
And so as part of the IKS, he said, why don't you give a 1.5 credit course on life management skills?
Okay.
So then I said, wow, an IIM Nagpur visiting faculty position with an email ID and everything looks fancy, but adding
does.
saffron, will that be allowed?
Yeah.
Because I had previous experiences, to the contrary. So he said, if the chief minister can be in saffron, why not visiting faculty?
That's a good answer.
So that's how it began. And so last 3 years, I've been giving a 1.5 credit course. Now it has become 0.75 credit course because someone else is also sharing that. But I take 8 topics. Begins with purpose, habits, focus, relationships, determination, discrimination, humility, tolerance. These 8 have nothing to do with Hindu determination, Muslim discrimination.
It matters
Christian
no matter who
humility.
you are.
So
These are foundational
these are
elements
values. Exactly.
of what makes you you.
So therefore, I give case studies from the corporate world, from real life situations, my experiences. And, it is for the first year PG diploma students in IIM Nagpur. It's been received very well. And I think in today's context, the corporates, the leaders need to understand that their efficiency and effectiveness will very much depend on how they are able to maintain their own sanity.
Thank you so much for taking the time today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you
And I am walking away from this conversation a little less stressed.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you to NDTV. And I hope that all of you, by watching this episode, don't just experience more profit, but experience more peace and more personal connection with oneself and the people in your family.
Stay tuned. This is NDTV Profit.